Yo guys, what's going on? My name is HackingIsFreedom and welcome back to the 5th episode of What Was Cut, a series where we take a look at what exactly was cut from our favorite games. Today we're going to be talking about the Warriors for the PS2. I have great memories of playing this game when I was younger, especially with my friends, and I even played a lot of this game with my father in co-op because he's a huge fan of the Warriors. It would be amazing to see either a remake or a second game from the Warriors franchise, but sadly, I think this IP is dead in the water. Anyway, let's join the Warriors and steal some car radios.
I want you to hit everything in sight. I want everyone to know that the Warriors were there.
Since this game focuses on gangs, let's talk about the cut characters, gang members, and other various changes. So, first up, we have the West Side Lords, and there are 3 unused members, as well as 3 unused versions of Ditto. The first one is an unnamed leader for the West Side Lords. The second is an unnamed lieutenant or second in command of the West Side Lords. The last member just looks like a copy of Ditto. This was most likely used as a generic gang member though. And these are the 3 cut versions of Ditto. Nothing really changed on him besides his clothing. Cowboy has an early version of himself wearing a Destroyer's vest, which is kind of odd because the Destroyers are the Warriors' rivals. Snow has an early model of him wearing a Destroyer's vest as well. If you force load this on Xbox, it shows up glitched because of the incorrect texture mapping. This one is kind of strange. It has no model associated with it, but this texture sheet is a real-life scan of Michael Beck, which is the actor that played Swan in the Warriors movie. I'm sure this was just used as a reference when creating his in-game character model. Jones has a cut model of him wearing a red and white tank top without the Warriors vest. You can load this texture on the Xbox as well, but once again, it has incorrect texture mapping, so it shows up glitched. Lynx surprisingly has 3 cut models. The first one being his basic model with some blood on his face and shirt. The second is pretty much a stripped down version of the outfit we have in-game, as this model is missing the Warriors vest and the black gloves. And the last one is pretty much the same as the previous model, however this one has "Fuck you Huns" written on the shirt. Malcolm has an unused version of himself not wearing a shirt, and I'm pretty sure this was used as a beta model, because you can see this version in various screenshots and pre-release footage. Sully, which is the leader of the Orphans, actually has 2 unused models. The first one being this weird green glowing version, and I'm not sure if this was used as a placeholder or if it was used for something more specific, because if you force load this model into the game, it will immediately crash the game. The second is pretty similar to what we have in a final game, just with some ripped clothing. If you try and force load this model on the Xbox once again, it shows up glitched because of the improper texture mapping. The Hurricanes have this unused model of Diego, and the only differences are the blood and scratches on him. There's also this strange texture sheet meant for a Hurricane gang member. It's labeled as PS2 Swan Hurricane, so I'm not sure if the developers were planning to make Swan a member of the Hurricanes, which really wouldn't make any sense, or maybe they just used Swan as a placeholder model before they made the actual Hurricane member. You can actually force load this texture onto Swan in the Xbox, but once again, it appears very glitched. There's also an early model of Julius left over, and the only difference is this model is missing the logo on his shirt seen in the final game. 2 security guard models are left over as well. These could have appeared in many different places, but one place I'm almost 100% sure they were supposed to appear is around the Coney Island shops. The next group of gangs I'm going to be talking about were all seen in the Members of Meeting cutscene, and it seems like there were plans to include all of them as playable characters. We have 4 members of the Electric Eliminators, 4 members of the Jones Street Boys, 4 members of the Baseball Furies, 2 members of the Savage Huns, and 2 members of the Turnbull ACs. None of these characters have unique names or any type of unique labeling, so it's really uncertain what the original plans for these members were. But with all the gang members out of the way, let's get into some of the unused maps and game modes. And some of these look like they would have been really fun in co-op, but alas, they ended up cut. So the first one is an unused map called Coney Island Warrior Turf, and it was for the Wheels of Steel game mode. It takes place in the second area of Coney Island, exactly where the mission New Blood takes place. This map was most likely used as a test map for the Wheels of Steel game mode due to the extremely short track and poor barrier placements, because you can actually cut through the barriers and skip checkpoints. This next map is called Coney Island Coney Drag, and this was made for the Have Mercy game mode. It seems to use an earlier version of Coney Island because you can't enter any shops even after breaking the glass. The fences are all invisible, but still can be climbed over, and no pedestrians spawn. A mini-map was made for this as well, but it also goes unused. A big thanks to Blake Klein here on YouTube for originally documenting these 2 maps I just spoke about. Next, we have a strange map called the Shanties, and this is a stripped down version of East Coney you'd see in the mission Heavy Muscle. I'm pretty sure this map was going to be used for the Rumble game mode, as there's also an unused minimap for it as well. A map called the Graveyard must have been cut late into development because it has an unused minimap, and the sheer size of it shows that a good amount of work went into it before it was scrapped. This map was supposed to be featured in the campaign after the mission Boys in Blue. There's even 3 loading screens left over for this map. The last 2 maps were made for a cut game mode called A Life on the Run, and this game mode was meant to be played in co-op. It's basically an obstacle course, and whoever reaches the end first would win. So the first map for this game mode was called Gun Hill Chase, and there's not much to say about this really. The second map made for this game mode is called Fury's Chase, perhaps indicating that we were supposed to be playing as the baseball Furies, or the baseball Furies were the ones chasing us instead of the cops. Just my personal guesses though. Another big thanks to Atlas for originally documenting these 4 maps and a lot of other content here on the Warriors. Without him, this video definitely wouldn't be possible, so thank you. Up next are all the cut game modes, and all of them but one have temporary loading screens. No maps have been left over, so I'll quickly go through them. The first game mode is called Stay Tuned, and like the loading screen says, you'd have to fight for the stereo and play your song. I'm assuming this would have played a lot like King of the Hill. The longer you played your song, the more points you would have gotten. This is the only game mode that has a unique loading screen, so development must have gotten further than the rest. The game mode War Party was originally called Gang Brawl, and this is where the temp loading screens come into play. The game mode called Pig Wrastlin', as well as all other cut game modes on this list, use the early Gang Brawl loading screen, but the colors are inverted. The other 4 cut game modes are called Motor Mayhem, Mug of War, Homeland Security, maybe this is where the security guards were supposed to be used, and Wheelchair Tag. Mug of War was most likely a game mode that required you to mug people, and whoever mugged the most NPCs would win. Motor Mayhem perhaps was a game mode for racing the Satan's Mother's motorcycle gang, and I'm assuming Wheelchair Tag was most likely played like Infection Tag. The person that survived the longest without getting tagged would win. Alrighty, let's change it up and jump into the many unused objects still left over. So the first one up on the list is this pickup for a spike, which I'm sure was used as a weapon earlier on. I'm sure this was also supposed to be labeled as ice pick rather than a spike, because it looks a lot more like an ice pick. Next is another pickup for brass knuckles. It's kind of strange to see actual pickup markers for weapons, as all of the weapons in the game can be found just laying on the ground. These 2 objective markers were placeholders for player 1 and 2. A big red button is left over, and I'm sure this was used in the mission Encore, as leftover voice lines indicate you had to find some switches.
Shit! Door won't budge without power. They must have slid in when they hit the breakers. Come on, the switch has gotta be around here someplace.
There's 2 unused versions of the police badge icon, and it seems developers didn't know which color to use at first. The final game uses the traditional blue badge icon though. An informational pickup was strangely cut. This probably would have displayed a hint on what you had to do in a specific mission. A white bucket hat with sunglasses and a cigarette is left over, but there is no indication who was supposed to wear it, because it's also not equipable for the player. This black and yellow arrow was used as a placeholder for various objective markers. A weird blue TV was supposed to be used for some sort of mission, as the file is named Dynamic TV Mission. This key here is labeled as Dynamic Special Key, so it was obviously used in some sort of special scripted event, quite possibly for this unused golden lock. Because there's also these 3 keys and these 3 gated doors with the corresponding logo on them. Obviously these keys were needed to open the said doors. There are 2 strangely labeled objects, both having Spook in the name. The first one is named Dynamic S Spook H, and this is a headless member of the Hi-Hats, and his outfit kinda looks like Freddy Krueger's. The second one is labeled as Dynamic DR Spook, and this just looks like a screenshot taken by a developer that was later plastered on this door-like frame. Again, with the spook prefix being in both models, these must have been either basic map objects with no real purpose, or part of an Easter egg. I'm really not sure. Next up is this bong, and it's labeled as Dynamic Bong F, and it changes colors every time you spawn it in. It can be spawned in purple, pink, green, blue, red, yellow, and black. This doesn't really look like a bong to me, but I guess it was cut for a reason. We have 3 versions of arcade machines, and I'm sure these were supposed to be used in the Warriors hideout, or in various shops. The first one is a Wild West type game, the middle one is some sort of alien blaster game, and the last one is a space shooting game of sorts, similar to Asteroids. A pretty strange model of a voodoo doll was also cut. I'm not really sure where this was going to be used. Another strange model of a red pouch labeled as Dynamic Bag Coin. By the name, my guess is when you defeated an enemy, their money would drop into this pouch rather than actual cash. There's also a low poly model of a red motorcycle. This most likely was used for the Satan's Mother's gang, or for the Motor Mayhem game mode I spoke about earlier. And lastly, there's an unused model of a swinging utility light, most likely meant for any warehouse you can enter. This is the only model left unused that has a working animation. Obviously, we gotta follow up the unused objects with some unused textures. First up are these 3 texture sheets of early HUD icons. The character heads are of Hurricane, LC, Sanchez, and Mr. Pong. Text reading Riot was supposed to appear in the mission Blackout when Riverside erupts into a riot. It's also quite possible that the Mayhem command was originally called Riot, but that's just my guess. Text reading Win was also supposed to appear in the Rumble game mode in co-op. A 2-layer version of the Warriors tag is also left over. It's believed that this tag was supposed to appear in the mission Writer's Block, as the final version of this tag is named very similar. These 2 textures are early versions of a sprayable location and a lock that could be picked. Lastly, there were only 2 temp textures left over. The first one being this texture for a missing texture, And the last one is a texture that just says obsolete written in red. I personally love seeing temporary textures left over in games though, because it gives us a cool look into the development history. The next topic we're talking about is voice lines, and there's a lot of characters that have unused voice lines, and they're all supposed to be played in various missions. To make it a little less boring, I'll quickly go over each character with a few random voice lines. However, if you guys want to check out the full list, I'll have it linked for you in the description. So, for no reason at all, let's start with Swan's voice lines.
I got a bad feeling about this. Let's just get those cutters and get down to the beach. We're going home. Oh, we got them under control, Jackie. Nah, Jackie. We just came to collect our bread.
Next is Cleon's.
Shit! Door won't budge without power. They must have slid in when they hit the breakers. Game over, Chatterbox. You lose. You mothers are messing with the wrong dudes.
Let's go find something we can torch their cruisers with.
Some random lines from the Destroyers gang.
Ruff, ruff. Fucking dingoes. Step the fuck off, dingo.
There ain't no bathhouses down here, man. This ain't no dingo turf.
No one fucks with our operations.
First you cut out, now this shit.
Virgil's gonna kill you, man.
Chatterbox has quite a few voice lines, pretty fitting for his name.
Why don't you fucks die? Your numbers up, warriors. Heads up, warriors. Ow, fuck! You stupid piece of shit. I'll cut your throats out if you hit me again. You warriors feeling all right? Do you think you'll live through the night, warriors? Come get me, you stupid fucks! I'll massacre you greasy fucking rats! Come on, warriors!
Fox is next.
We're gonna need to find a way to open this. This should open those gates. That's gotta be the dragon room. We're gonna have to sneak inside and grab the statue.
Hit that switch over there. I already used the key. It'll let us get to those last 2 trains. All right, guys, 2 left. Let's light it up.
We have 2 lines from the Boppers gang.
I don't care what they doing. Frumpy-ass Brooklyn trash ain't down with Harlem. Bust them up.
No way! This dude took out Boxcar? Beat him down, big man!
Ajax has a few.
Ain't this just perfect? The freaks will be right at home. Which way did they go? Come on, Snow. We gotta find our fucking colors. Those destroyers are gonna pay.
Luther only has 4.
Are you fucking kidding me? They got away! You let them get away! Come on, cut them up ahead. Don't mess this up, Cropsy, or else. Watch where you're going, bonehead. If you drive straight, we might actually hit them, moron. Can't you go any faster? Lay it down, you meathead.
And lastly, Rembrandt's voice lines.
Come on, War Chief. Come on, Cochise. Hurry up. Oh, they're gonna get it. They're gonna get creamed. Oh, shit. No!
And the final topic of this video is going to be the unused cutscenes. There's actually a lot more than I'm going to be showing, but all of them are just no sound versions of the same cutscenes we see in game. So I'm just going to show you the ones that I think are the most interesting. First, we have a cutscene that was going to be featured in the second level of Real Life Bunch, and this cutscene is the most unfinished in the list.
Let me go, motherfucker! Swan!
There are 2 cutscenes that were going to be featured in the level Encore, the first one being for a boss fight with Chatterbox, and this was either unfinished or used as a placeholder. I personally believe this was used as a placeholder. The second one was for the ending of Encore, and this is basically fully finished but goes unused.
The awful chatter around Soho has come to a stuttering halt, thanks to the warriors. Looks like the hi-hats won't be performing for quite some time. Enjoy the silence, and good night, boppers.
You may be wondering what the camera is zooming into. Since it lines up perfectly with the other so-called trophies we have on the wall, I believe this vest was going to show up here as another trophy. And the last one on the list is actually pretty interesting. This cutscene was the fourth part of the cutscene seen in the level Desperate Dudes. The audio is very delayed, DJ and her studio don't appear, the song Nowhere to Run isn't played either, the gang scenes are not in proper order, and finally the punks are missing all of their beer bottles and glass props. I strongly believe this was used as another placeholder due to the many errors.
Riffs, yeah, right! Who are the warriors? There must be some word. I want them all. I want all the warriors. I want them alive if possible, if not wasted. But I want them. Send the word.
And that's all I have for the Warriors. I just had to do this episode because I played this game so much as a kid, and I actually didn't know this game had so much cut from it. Anyway, if you have a suggestion for the next What Was Cut episode, please feel free to comment down below. I have many projects on the go, so don't worry if your suggestion isn't the next episode. Your suggestion will definitely be added to this series in the future. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.